signal. It's a trick.
When most people think of low-budget indie movies, they think Ginger Snaps, $5 million, Nightmare on Elm Street, $3 million, or even Halloween from 1978 with $365,000. But when a movie has a budget of less than $100,000, can that movie be a good movie? And that is what we're going to find out here today. This is The Signal from 2007 with no relation to 2010 The Signal with Lawrence Fishburne. This movie has no correlation to that film whatsoever.
My phone's out. Thank you.
Now, I did a video this week talking about my mind-blowing information I found out about this film when doing some research, digging a little bit deeper to find out about things that I didn't know about when initially watching this film. Namely, one of the biggest things being the low-ass budget that this has of $50,000. No shit. Now keep that figure in your mind because what I'm about to tell you is probably going to blow your mind just as much as it blew mine.
1 out of 2 people just started killing each other. They just decided to kill people. I mean, what do I do? I've never killed anybody before. What do I do? I'm not going to fuck around, but what do I do? So anybody comes at me, I take them out. No questions asked. Got to. Anybody else, I secure and I put in a safe place. No telling who's gonna go crazy next. You gotta put them up. I pulled a fire alarm. I don't know why. Maybe somebody will come. Maybe they won't. Maybe they're screwed up too.
This movie's story is told in 3 different sections, transmission 1, 2, and 3, with 3 different directors, 3 different writers, and 3 different perspectives throughout the whole film. And in this first transmission, we're introduced to the 3 main characters with the 3 different perspectives through each transmission, Maya, Ben, and Lewis. Transmission 1 is pretty straightforward. It's a setup of the characters, the scene, everything that's happening in the environment, the atmosphere is set, all that stuff is done very smoothly. Aside from the really random introduction to any movie I've ever seen before, looking like we're watching something from the actual 60s or 70s type horror movies, throws anyone right off track. The first time I watched this film, I was like, do I even want to watch this? This just looks really bad. And then I got past that little introductory scene. It turns out to be we're watching a movie that was on the TV, and then the signal gets cut out with weird static on the television. It shows the title card and everything, so it really threw me off. But we are introduced to Maya, who is, through the conversations that they are having in this first scene, apparently having an affair behind Lewis's back.
I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this.
First, you just breathe, and then realize that it's okay.
It's not that simple, Ben. I mean, I can't possibly just walk in.
Anything's possible. Come on. You can just drop your stuff right now and stay here tonight and never go back there again.
The affair that Ben and Maya have got going on is interesting because it's sort of like this fairy tale love affair. You don't really get a chance to see their love or their connection sort of develop or anything like that, so you kind of just have to go with how they interact with one another, and it doesn't really seem all that genuine. It just seems kind of like that teenage love when someone is really infatuated with someone else and it's not really realistic to see things in a certain way.
We'll go to the country and start a life. A real life. Maya and Ben. New Year's Eve, Terminal 13, Maya and Ben. And you don't look back.
That's beautiful.
It's possible.
And here we get introduced to Transmission 1, Crazy in Love, where Maya leaves Ben's apartment, goes to the car park, sees a dude that's been stabbed, tells him to go to the hospital, and just this really creepy atmosphere just like hits you in the face, like very suddenly. she goes to her apartment building, and just, it's sort of like a broken atmosphere that's morphing around her quite suddenly. No televisions, phones, or radios are working anywhere, and there's this weird signal that's being transmitted on these electronic devices that kind of are doing something to people's attitudes. It's warping their perceptions, it's warping how they see things, and it's warping their rationale to this completely different, I can't even really explain it. It turns people crazy. Now, where this movie shines is how they get tension and suspense and makeup effects and like camera work. Everything's done so well that I couldn't praise this movie really enough with the low budget that this movie has. When you see Maya and Lewis interact with one another, we haven't seen Lewis away from this crazy mentality, so we don't really know what he's like normally, so seeing him for the first time acting very irrational and sort of very overprotective, we get this idea that maybe he's like that just in general, and that's why she's having the affair with Ben. I'm not really sure, but it's interesting to see, and it's interesting to try and analyze how the relationship was before the film. And that's another reason why I like this movie, because it gets you thinking about things that have happened away from the screen, before the movie started.
Who'd you have drinks with?
Donna and Emily?
Where'd you go? Who's Donna?
Story bar. Donna's new. She just started yesterday.
She's a waitress?
Hostess.
So this random confrontation kicks off in Maya and Lewis's apartment, and Lewis just decides to beat the shit out of his own friend to death, while at the same time trying to make sure that Maya is okay and comfortable. And it's really creepy the way that they push this idea across to the audience, because this is done so well.
Lois, God! Lois! Lois, what have you done? What's wrong with you? Lois, calm down! Go! Take a shot, man.
So from here on out, I'm going to be very vague about each and every transmission and what happens from this point forward to the rest of the movie. I don't really want to give away anything else besides just this introductory portion of the film, because I think this movie's best element is walking into this movie blind. I think knowing very little about it is probably the best thing that can benefit the audience, benefit you. So with this movie having 3 different directors, it's going to be told in 3 different ways. Like, these people are not going to be thinking the exact same way, so therefore they're going to have their own spin on how this situation could play out. Now, what I can say is that in the first transmission, it's very serious. It's very to the point and sort of apocalyptic, and the world is dead and doomed and fucked.
Is that you? Keep walking, Ron.
Wait. Maybe she's just confused.
Ron!
Do you
Ron!
have the crazy? You fucking bitch! You fucking bitch!
Whereas Transmission 2 is black comedy or dark comedy at its finest. Like, if you want some of the darkest comedy that you'll ever come across in film, where everything is just bleh and everything's just like doom and gloom, but there's somehow you can spin it into a funny way, kind of like Shaun of the Dead type comedy, then you'll really appreciate how this particular director for Transmission 2 puts his idea of how this world plays itself out.
Don't go in there!
What do you have here?
It's Ken. Just napping.
He looks dead.
He is.
I see. Who did this?
I did. But I didn't want to.
You killed him?
And Clark killed somebody too.
I did. It was self-defense.
You chopped his head off.
He had it coming. Probably.
And then when we get to transmission 3, it goes back to being really serious again. And you're like, hang on, can I sort of get more of that? And you kind of do in a way, but nowhere near as much as in transmission 2. Personally, I like transmission 2 the best because it throws you completely off.
I know what you're thinking. You don't have to say it. No need to tell me because I already know. You think this party is a bad idea. I just don't think we can have people over right now. I'll just tell them that the party's been canceled.
Now, I'm not going to get into how this movie ends. I'm not going to even talk about anything to do with Transmission 3, but what I will explain of what this Soul movie's purpose is that the love affair that's going on between Ben and Maya is that they want to get away from Lewis. They want to start a life on their own. So what they've done is they've created a plan to be able to get from Terminus, where they live, to get to the airport and go to Terminal 13. So whatever it is that's happening, doesn't matter what's happening in the world around them, they know that in order to find each other again, they will find each other at Terminal 13.
I'm going to Terminal 13 to meet somebody. We're gonna leave this fucking town and never look back. Do you understand? Don't fucking follow me.
What about the guy in the car?
I thought this movie was great in so many different ways because it's just something that I hadn't seen up until that point. When I saw this movie in 2008, I was just like, wow, this is really gritty. This does not pull any punches. This is super gory. Like, this does what it needs to do. It's full-on hardcore R-rated, and it does it in the best way possible, which is awesome because you don't want to watch a movie where they're like, oh no, we want to downgrade this to PG-13 and make sure that everyone's happy with it. This movie's gonna have portions in it that are gonna offend people.
I would totally fuck an Indian girl. I would. Those kind, if I ever saw one.
This has portions in the movie that are gonna creep people out and just make them feel ew. And then there's gonna be portions in this movie that are gonna make people cringe and not want to watch anymore because it's too graphic, or it's too violent, it's too hectic and over the top, or it's just too weird. And in my opinion, that's the best parts about the movie. Not all the time, but at the times when it needs to be. So I personally would give this one a good solid 8 out of 10. This is an indie movie that needs to be praised a little bit more, or at least needs to be given a bit more attention than what it has gotten over the last almost 8 or 9 years or something. If you can find a copy online, or if you can find somewhere that's selling it, give them your money. Buy it, watch it, do a review on it, let people know about this movie, get the word out there. If you haven't seen the vlog, the ranty vlog that I made earlier this week talking about the anticipation of me trying to review this movie, I'll leave a link to that in the description box down below. There'll be an annotation on the screen and a link at the end of the video too. So watch that. Do you agree with me? Do you think this movie is as good as what I say it is, or as what I think it is, for such a low budget film? Does it look like something that you would watch? Do you think that this movie needs to be praised for the budget that it has? I think a lot of people were quite harsh on it, but I think that's because they're like, we expected this, we expected that. You have to think about it in realistic terms here. 50 grand is not much money. That's about as much as a brand new car. They made a full feature-length film in this unique way. At the time it was unique anyway, with 50 grand. 50 fucking grand. Anyway, if you guys seen this movie, what did you guys think about it? Leave your comments in the comment section down below. If you want to subscribe, then subscribe. If you like the video, then like the video. If you disliked it, then dislike it, and all that jazz in a bag of chips. I hope you guys are all having a mad day. Until next time, peace.